Thanks for joining us. And I'm going to say welcome on behalf of Michaels and John Bead. And thank you for joining this class. It's a Wavy Multi-Strand Bracelet. And I'm Danielle Wicks, content creator for John Bead. And we're going to be recording this class over Zoom. So everyone will be muted, but you can drop questions in the chat and they'll be answered. And the replay will be available tomorrow at michaels.com/classes. And while we're waiting for everyone to join, if you guys want to jump in the chat and tell us where you're from, it'd be neat to see where everyone is. And we'll get started in about a minute or so. And I'm going to bring my chat up so I can see you guys too. Oh, cool. We got folks from everywhere. Florida, Maryland, Hollywood, Florida. I didn't know there was a Hollywood in Florida. That's awesome. Chicagoland, got Toronto. Got folks in Georgia. I'm seeing North Dakota, Maryland, Palm Beach, LA. Oh, wow, is that New Zealand? Oh, Zealand. Sorry, Zealand was right. I thought that was New Zealand. Local here in Woodinville. Hey, my neighbor. Bellingham. All right, looks like we've got a pretty good group going here. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce the project. And so today what we're doing is we're making a wavy multi-strand bracelet, which uses a technique called single column herringbone stitch. And it's the herringbone stitch. Everybody knows that we're just doing one column. So it enables you to make a multi-strand wrap and go around the wrist. And in this class, we're going to make a series of bands that are single bands. And we're going to attach them with jump rings. And then at the end, we're going to make a tassel to match and kind of decorate. Also, you can see on this one, I put a little charm, little owl guy on there. He's so cute. And we'll talk a little bit about color, and we'll talk about the seed beads. And speaking of which, there is in the chat room, you guys will see a color guide dropped. So these are all the new colors that are coming to Michaels, and it's awesome. So when you're looking at, I will introduce colors as I'm working. And so when you're in the chat, you can download this later and get some ideas of how you might want to do your designs. One of the things that we did here was we did an ombre. So we started with a mix called Hawaii Mix in 6/0, and then chose a solid 8 and a solid 10, and then made an ombre pattern where it just goes from light to dark and back to light about 3 times. And that's how you get this pattern that just kind of lines up on the wrist. So lots of cool stuff. I'm going to switch cameras so we can get started. There we go. I'm going to give this a minute to focus, and there we are. So here on the mat, I've got a sample tassel, which we'll cover that at the end. And got my sample that I made earlier today. So these are the ones I'm going to use to turning off. I'll put this for you guys here. There we go. I think that's a little bit better. Okay. So these are worked in a stitch that uses size 10, size 8, and size 6 seed beads, and any colors you like. I will share the colors I'm using today. I'm starting with just a single color set in a green turquoise. And if we get time at the end, I can show you guys an ombre idea that I had. So starting with the 10s here. And here's the 8s. And the 6s. And what I love about this stitch, and this is such a recyclable idea, is you can use it so many ways. You can make not just a bracelet, but it can be a great necklace too. And I have a friend who made earrings with them. She used just a little dangling strand, and she put little wire guardians at the top and the bottom in a charm and hung them as an earring. So there's so many great ideas. Using WildFire, this is 0.006. It's the color black. And these are precision scissors. You do a good job with cutting the WildFire. And so the needles I'm using today are the Beadalon hard beading needles in size 10. Okay, and so a trick for threading the needle. It's always kind of challenging to get these threaded, but if you use your chain nose pliers and you flatten the end, it'll be easier to get it through the eye of the needle because it goes almost flat there. And once it's through, you'll notice that it's really tight on the needle. That's good because it's not going to come off while you're stitching. This design is worked on a single strand that's about 36 inches long. I'm folding over about 4 inches here. And I'll start by picking up 4 of your size 10 seed beads. And don't worry, I will go over this more than once. So we'll get a chance to review it. And so you'll bring them to the end and leave enough tail. At the end, we're going to sew on a wire guardian. So I'm thinking 10 to 12 inches or so for weaving your ending onto it. Okay, so I've got 4 size 10 seed beads on the thread. And I'm going to turn and go back through the first 2 size 10s that I added. And pull tight. And it forms a little square. And you know, bead weavers recognize that as your first step in a ladder stitch. And so if this were going to be a bigger piece, we'd keep laddering on, but we're just going to work a single column here. So next I'm going to pick up size 8s and go down through one of the 10s. And then at this point, we're going to turn, come back up through the adjacent 10. And this does a couple of things. It flattens out. Right now, these 2 10s are bowing in towards each other a little bit like that. When you pull tight here, it flattens them out and tightens them up. And I wanted to say also that you don't have to do this wave pattern. You could use just a single size of beads and just make a straight band. And you could use any size you want. And so I've picked up 2 6s. I'm stringing those. I'm helping them lay flat. Turn and come up through the adjacent 8. And so there's tapering up to 6s. Now we're going to taper back down to 10s. So I'm going to go back and pick up 8s, 2 8s. Bring that through. Turn, go through the adjacent 6 and come up. And then repeat that with the 10s. So you can see how fast these work. There's one section done already. And if you repeated that about 13, 14, 15 times, you have a little under 6 inches, which putting a clasp on it would add another inch. and you got a bracelet that quickly. Does anyone have questions? I'm going to just glance here at the chat. Pattern, please. Okay. So there is a PDF, and I have it printed out. I got it right here. And I forgot to say at the beginning, sometimes, especially if you're new to bead weaving, it's really helpful just to watch a couple times and then try it. And I am going to go over each step 2 times. But this is the pattern that is in the class handout. And it'll show the first step of adding those 4 size 10 seed beads and looping through to connect them, coming back down through the other 10s. And then it shows adding the 8s, come down through the 10s and go back up, and adding the 6s the same way. And so that's what we've done here, and then we just continued on with some 8s and the 10s again. And so I'm seeing, where do we see the handout? I believe it is being shared in the chat, and I'm seeing people saying they're lost here. Let me try to find.
Hi, Danielle. This is Carmi from John Bead.
Hey, how are you doing?
Good. I just want to let you know we're having a little issue. We normally can add the project pattern on the chat section, but we don't have the option right now. So in case anybody is wondering, we're going to try and sort it out before the class is over, but it was definitely attached to everyone's email today to attend the class. And we'll make sure that they get it. If they don't get it during the class, we'll make sure we'll find a way to email it to them.
Okay, great. Yeah. And sorry, I forgot to mention that that was emailed before the class. But if anyone is, still looking for it, we will make sure you get it. And meanwhile, I'm going to go ahead and just start over and go through step 1 more time. And so these are size 10 hard beading needles that I'm using. And this is 0.006 WildFire. And I'm cutting between 36 and 40 inches or so. This bracelet doesn't use that much thread, but a good comfortable working length for you is fine. I am going to show how to add thread as well, because sometimes if you wanted to make one of those super long ones, you'll definitely be adding thread a few times there. So I'm going to show you guys that. I just cut a working length of about 36 inches or so. And I'm flattening with chainless pliers the end of the thread. And why I do that is because this plasticized thread is really easy to thread a needle if it's flat, not so much if it's in its rounded form. So if you flatten it with those chainless pliers, make it a little easier to get it through the eye of the needle. So there's that. Pull it down about 4 inches. Fold over. And this design is worked on a single strand. Yeah, so I'm seeing you guys didn't get that. You didn't get that handout. Okay, we'll make sure that it goes to everybody. We'll find a way to get that to you guys. What we might do is post it later. Okay, so the beads that I have here laid out, these are size 10s, size 8s, and size 6 seed beads. And again, you can use any colors you like. It's really cool to see the colors mixed up. Later on, I was going to show you guys an ombre idea where if you use a mix, keep 2 of the colors solid, whichever 2 you want, and then throw a mix in there for one of the colors and go from light to dark and back to light and repeat that pattern, and you'll get something that looks like this. Just really fun. This is Hawaii mix. Everyone really always asks me, what is that? That is the size 6 Hawaii mix with matte amethyst and opaque black in between. Love this. I love that one. I like wearing it like every day. Okay, so let's get started. We're going to pick up 4 size 10 seed beads. Bring those down to the end of the thread and leave about 10 to 12 inches for weaving on the wire guardian at the end. Just enough to use for that. And then turn and go back through the first two you added. And pull tight. And you'll see it'll form a little square. And so now you want to pick up 2/8, or whatever size you're working with is great, and bring those down and pull tight. And then you'll want to turn and go back through that second 10 there. See, I'm going to hold that up a little bit so you can see it. See, I came down through this 10, and going back up through the adjacent 10, and continue through the 8 above. And pull, and get that first section there. And you add 2 size 6 seed beads. And changing the sizes, it just gives you that little wavy pattern. And that's the only reason to do it, but it's not required. You could just use all 8s or all 6s and all 10s even. It would be a tiny little minimalist band. You could do that in like 3 colors. That would look really neat. Okay, I'm going to turn. I added 2/8. I'm turning and going back up through the 6 and through the 8 above. So now you see we're tapering down and going back to the 10. And go down. And turn and go up. And I just saw a comment about measurements. I am horrible with measurements. I hear you. So I have a trick. You know the bead mats that they sell at Michael's? They're exactly 12 inches in length. And I just use my mat length. You can't see it here because my camera is zoomed in a lot, but if I drag my end of my beadwork to the end of the mat, got about 12 inches there. I use that almost every time I make something. Just a little trick. All right, and so from here, I'm wondering, do you guys want to see this stitch a few more times or start over one more time? Or do you want to see adding thread next? Let's see what you guys say here. Yes. Yes to continuing on. One more time. Okay, so restarting one more time. Gotcha. Okay. There's the size 10 needles, the WildFire, and about 36 inches of length there. Or 3 bead mats if you wanted to do that, would be close enough. And flattening with those pliers so we can thread that needle on. Okay. And pull that through. And so you'll see, you know, it's pretty tight. I'm pulling pretty hard to get that through, but it's good so you don't lose your needle while you're working. Okay. So to start this stitch, oh, and fold over. It's worked on a single strand, so fold it over. And pick up 4 size 10s. Bring those down to the end, leaving about a mat's length of tail, 12 inches or so. Turn and go through just those first 2 10s. We added 4, but we're just going to turn and go through the 2. And it forms a little square. Working on a double strand. If you're using the WildFire 0.006, you won't really have to, I mean, this is going to be strong, this design. I mean, I'm pulling pretty hard here. It's strong. You're doing so many loops back and forth that This thread has, I believe it's got a pull strength of, there's a piece of tape over mine, but they pull test these, and I would say this is like either 6 or 8 pound pull strength. If you wanted to, you could go up to the 0.008. Michaels carries WildFire in 0.008. And that would be, I don't think you'd have any trouble getting that through a 10, but you could always just work it with 8s and 6s. That would be fine. And let's see, any other questions? Okay, gotcha. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and continue here. So what I did is I added those first 4 size 10s, and then I looped back through the first 2. It pulled and it forms a little square. And so that's just a single column ladder right there. Next, I'm going to pick up 2 size 8 seed beads. I'm going to turn and go through just one of those 10s. Not the one my tail is exiting, but the one next to it. I'm going to go down. Pull tight, turn and go through the 10 that is next to the one your tail is coming out of. Turn and go through in the opposite direction. And when you pull, you'll add those 8s right to the top of your square. And then pick up 2 size 6. If you're doing that wavy pattern, that's 6s are next here. Pull those down through the size 8 seed bead, and then turn and go up through that 8. And pull tight. Now we're going to taper back down, so I'm going back to the 8s. Turn through that 6 that's next to the one my tail's exiting. And then turn and go back up through the 6 and the 8. And you'll see I missed the 8 there, so I'm going to go here. And go back through it and continue by picking up 2 10s and turn and go through. Okay, and there's your first little wave pattern. And so all you would do after this would be 8 6 8 10 8 6 8 10 all the way to the end. And about 14 will get you 6 inches. All right, let's see if anyone has more questions here. I see everyone talking about the instructions. We're working on that. How long should I make my thread if I want it to be necklace? Okay, so my suggestion on that one, still do 36 to 40 inches. If you don't want to get a bunch of knots, but what you can do is add thread, and that's a great transition to what I was going to show next. I was going to show you guys how to add thread when it's running short. So for example, a necklace length. This one, it's about 18 inches or so. And I had to add thread 4 times when I made this. Okay, so here's one where my thread is just, you know, it's under 6 inches now. So I want to leave enough that I can weave it in. I'm going to take the needle off and set it aside. Cut a new length of thread. Let's see here. I can't find the tail on my thread. I know it's there. There we go. Okay. And same trick here for threading it with those chain nose pliers. Pull around. Okay. So here's where my thread left off. This was my old working thread that got too short. I want to make sure I'm exiting the same place. So in order to do that, I'm going to go down in the opposite side because we know we're going to turn, right? And as with all weaving in of seed beading, 3 changes of direction and you've got a pretty tight connection. So I went through 3 beads. It's not critical how many you go through. It really doesn't matter. The trick is just to change direction 3 times. So here's direction change number 1. I'm switching and I'm going back this way. Okay, and so you see when I pull, that tail's still moving. The test is when that stops moving and you pull, you've got it. I'm turning and going down. I'm just going to go through the 6s here. And again, it's not critical what you go through. Just, go through whatever beads you'd like to. There's direction change number 2 and number 3. So I went down and up, down and up. 3 direction changes, and now watch when I pull. It's not moving. That's really tight. So we can go ahead and take this tail here, this tiny one, and get rid of it. If you have a burner and you're using that, that's great. If not, hold on tight to the tail and snip it under tension to get it to disappear as much as possible. Okay, and so now I just need to keep continuing upward so that I'm exiting in the same place as my old thread. And so WildFire is, it's a thicker thread, creates some stiffness. So you want to not overlap too many layers inside a single section of beads. So what I'm going to do after I've woven in my new thread is build a few more rows and then take and weave my tail thread up into that. So here's a 10, switching to an 8. And just ignoring that old working thread for now, like it's just pretending it's not there. And then turn and come up. And adding some 6s. So I'm just following that same pattern that we had going with the 10, 8, 6, 8, 10. Okay. Black WildFire just for visibility. Yeah, I'm using the black WildFire so you guys can see it, but I do use it a lot because I get a lot of it all at once, and so it's the color I tend to have around. I'm just going to add a few more links here so I can show you weaving the tail thread up into it. Okay. These are 6s. Yep. When I get to the 10, I'll go ahead and stop and we'll switch over to the old working thread. There's a Millie's comment. Yeah, well, this is the stitch that like my jam. I've been doing it for so long that it's one of those stitches that you do a few times and you can just you'll be stitching in your sleep. It's so addicting and fun. Okay, so this is my old working thread, and I'm going to string a needle on here. Hopefully, I didn't flatten that one. Flatten. There we go. Okay. And so you remember when we added this new thread, we were down here. So I'm just going to go up. Okay, changing direction one time, and back. Here's my second change of direction, and up. You see, I'm just kind of randomly choosing where to turn. It's not an important part of weaving in. Now turning again for the third change. And I just put a 4th on for good measure. And go up. A few more here. Okay, and then scissors. I'm using the scissors to put some weight and pulling up and then cut. You'll see that'll hide in there. And then you would just continue on with the rest of your bracelet.
Hi Danielle, it's Carmi again, just checking in. I think you're good for time, but I think it would be great for you at this point to show how you would close off that end now.
Yeah, let's switch to that so we have time for the tassel for sure. Okay, so here's a finished one. And I'm using some Beadalon wire guardians, and the handout that you guys will get has all of these Michael's search part numbers in it, so you'll be able to find them. They look like this. And I also wanted to show this really quick. If for some reason you didn't have wire guardians, or you just wanted to not use them, there's the alternative of just making a little loop of seed beads. So on one end, I'm going to do a seed bead loop, and one end I'll do a wire guardian, so you guys can see the difference. Okay, so starting with the wire guardian, I'm exiting from a 10. It's good to exit from one of the smaller beads. An 8 would be okay too, but if you're using a 6 as your end bead and you try to attach your wire guardian, it's going to sink into the bead. So I always try to end with a smaller bead. So going through one side of the wire guardian here. And turning and going down through, just went down through the 10 that's right next to the one that we're exiting. And guiding the thread to stay inside of the well of the wire guardian there. So you see he's on there pretty tight. And then turn and come back up through that adjacent 10. And if it's starting to get tight, you're doing good. The goal is to make it get tighter so that it does not come off when the wearer is enjoying their bracelet. So there's one. Now I'll go down through. Now I'm going to go down through the 8. So remember, I just turned with the 10s. Now I'm going to go down through the 8. Now turn and go up through the 8, 10 above it, and through the wire guardian. And one more time, returning to go down through it. I've gone through the 6 now. So through the 10 and the 8 and the 6 here. Turning and going back through the 6, 8, and the 10, and all the way through that wire guardian. One more time, it's going to start getting really tight. Sometimes if you can't get it to pull through easily, you can use the chainless pliers, but it looks like it was willing to cooperate with me today. Okay. And so one time I was teaching this, someone asked, is it okay just to weave it in by going through it only twice? So this is my first trip down through the wire guardian. Yeah, that's totally fine. I'm just being extra strong with it, trying to make sure it's extra tight. And I am going to use those pliers. All right, so now weaving in. Same story as before. I'm going to go down through one more. And this is all covered in the handout. Let me bring that over just so I can show you guys what I'm doing. So you see I added the wire guardian, went through the 10s, went through the 8s, went through the 6s. And now I'm going to weave in, changing direction. So here I'm out through the 8, going back up 1, 8. Go down through the 10. And back up. Through just the 10. And there you go. That was my third change of direction. I'm probably going to do one more. Because this is your clasp bendings. Those are called pull points. And with pull points, why not? You know, just make it a little stronger. And turn and go up. All right, and I'm going to just bring the thread and the needle back down through a few beads and trim. I'm pushing down with the scissors and pulling up with that thread. Okay, and so the next thing you would do here is you would get your findings and attach a clasp. If you're doing multi-strand, use one of the larger jump rings, put them all together on there. I'll show that at the end. But I wanted to show you guys really quick how to add, if you didn't have a wire guardian, how to add a jump ring to that. So threading to on here. So right now my thread is exiting from the last size 10 seed bead I added. There we go. I'm gonna pick up 4 10s and go down through that 10. And then just follow that same process for weaving it in as if it was a wire guardian. It just makes a little seed loop there. And through the 8. Back up through all the beads above it. And so on. You'd come down and then weave in just like that. And then you would just take a jump ring and put it through right there. And it would look like this guy. It was actually really cute because then you can make it match.
Hi Danielle, it's Carmi checking in. You had a question because on the multi-strand bracelet, the mustard colored beads that you used, it looks like they're all the same size. Is that correct?
They are. They're all size 6s. I wanted to show that because you don't have to do this wavy pattern. You can do any of these sizes. You could even get really creative. And I have another friend that starts with smaller beads, size 8s for the sides, and then she makes a big section of size 6s in the center. And that looks really cute too. The sky's the limit on this. It's a basic stitch that you can recycle into so many designs that it really gets the creative juices flowing because you have so many ideas. This one little tool in your toolbox and suddenly you can make so much jewelry. And I've seen, is there a trick to get the jump ring really close? I'm not sure. Well, so you could put the jump ring on while you're stitching if you wanted to. I always get my thread tangled in it, but you could. I feel like this is, I feel like that's about as tight as you want it to be though, because see, it's moving. So that's what 4 size 10 seed beads look like around a jump ring. And it's got a good movement. I like that, but I would say try it. Try your idea and see if you like it, because that's how all these things are done. You just, you try your idea, and if you come up with something, please share it. I'd love to see it.
Danielle, now that you've shown the main part of the bracelet, you are getting some questions about the tassel, of course.
Awesome. Okay. I'm excited to meet tassels today. It's really fun. Let me get these guys out of the way, these little guy beads here. Tiny ones. Okay. So I use deerskin lace to make mine. You can use any kind of cording that you like. To do the top here, I used this knotting cord. And it comes in, you guys, it comes in these colors. I'm going to show you the color spool because I just couldn't resist it. I'm walking down the aisle of the store and look at this. Whoa. And I'm not even showing you all the colors. Like there's black and white, gray, all of these other ones. And so it's nylon, 100% nylon. And it's in the jewelry section at Michael's. It comes with all of those. So very cool. You could even make your tassel with that, but I was really in love with this this deerskin because it's so pretty. So that's what I made the tassel with on the sample, and that's what I made this one with here. I'm gonna raise this up just a little bit so you guys can see a little bit more. Sorry about my tape, but that's how come I don't go out of the lines anymore. Okay, going around. And the deerskin lace that I'm working with, its thickness looks to be about 1/8 inch. And it does really well with, it looks like 6 wraps. So 2, 3. What I'm doing is making sure that it stays flat, just so it looks, you know, extra neat. Okay. There we go. And now I'm going to trim it. I brought down, this was my starting end, and this is my finishing end. I'm going to trim the finishing end and set this down for just a second. Now, if you're using the findings pack, there are 8mm jump rings in here. Grab one of those. If you aren't using this, just find some 8mm jump rings. They'll work great. And then I'm using some chain nose, bent nose pliers to open the jump ring. And pull that tight. And this is the top, so I'm going to bring this around all my strands, just like that. You guys all see that? I'm bringing that jump ring behind all of those deerskin lace strands that I wrapped around the card. And I'm going to close it. Okay. Slide this up as much as you can. Don't worry about it because we can adjust it at the end. It may not move very much right here. Switching back to the end where we left our tails. And I'm just going to go under and cut. Bring them off the card. And so now if you want to adjust your jump ring to be in the center, you can slide it a little bit here. Fold over. And don't worry about the ends being straight yet. We're going to cut those at the very end. I'm just going to set that there. I'm going to get my cording. Actually, I should use a different color so you guys can see it. I'm going to switch colors here. Purple? Yeah. Okay. Now I'm not taking it off the spool because I don't know how much I want to use yet to wrap. So what I'm going to do is leaving about 4 inches on this side. So this is the side that's loose. Bring it underneath. Come around. And just tie a double knot. I'm going to slide it up. There we go. There's one. And if you notice any of these bunching, keep them, you can straighten them just a little bit. There's one. And 2. And leave that tail long, bring it down. And this is where working from the spool, I feel like that really helps because you can decide that you could go crazy wrapping all around it if you wanted to, or you could just do a little bit. But I'm holding this part and I'm just going to start going around. Just make it look cute. Okay. And I cut right about here. I'm leaving 4 inches to tie with. And you remember that tail we left? Bring it over here. And let's just tie a knot. I'm using my finger to hold it. Okay, there's one. I pulled that pretty tight. And here's number 2. Okay. So if you've got a burner, trim it and burn the tips down. And you won't have to use glue. If you don't have a burner, no problem. You can use glue, just a little dab. Right there. I always love trying to get these back in. There you go. Let it dry. And then once it's dry, you trim the ends as close as you can to the knot. And you can push down a few of the strands over that knot. And it really is not something you'll see anymore. You won't notice it. So just a quick and easy way to do a tassel. And so let's pretend I trimmed those already. What about all of this down here? Well, we can give it a haircut. Same way you see the hairdressers, back when we could go to the hairdressers. Trim, I don't know, I'm saying maybe about that length or so. Totally up to you, whatever you like. And then just trim along. If you have sewing scissors handy, those are even faster, but these are the precision scissors listed in the handout that are, they're just everyday scissors, and they're really good. And there it is, a little tassel. You would attach, at this point, you would attach another jump ring to it and put it onto your bracelet. So let's pretend we're doing that with this one. And I'm gonna go ahead and, I think it's strong enough where I can trim that now. Otherwise it's gonna be in the way. Okay, there's those. Okay, findings. So now I'm switching down to 6mm. Again, some bent nose and chain nose pliers. To the wire guardian, or if you want, to the seed loop.
Danielle, this is Carmi from John Bead. Did you have enough of the strands left to show how you would join the 3 together with a clasp?
I can do that, yeah.
Just
so there's,
they can see how to make the final bracelet.
Yeah, in fact, I started a couple over here I can show you. So I'm going to connect these two. And then I'm thinking I'll connect it to my other one. It's going to be very multicolored. I'm going to bring this over here. And I'm going to remove this one that I've got on there really quick. All right, so to finish this one, what I would do is, you see how each has a jump ring? You would attach a separate jump ring to the end of each wire guardian and then bring them all together in one big jump ring. So there's 1, 2, and 3 here. Actually, I'll put this one back on. And I think in the sample I was using a toggle. You can use any clasp that you like. Toggle, lobster, magnetic, anything that you like to use is great. So here's a 6mm jump ring. You can use a 6 or an 8. 6 will work fine. Connecting it to that one. I lost that one, sorry. To this one. And then to the end of this one. And on one of them you would have, on this one you would put your clasp. I left my clasp over on that one, but go ahead and remove that so you guys can see how it lays properly. I closed this one so well that I can't even see the opening on it. But what you would want to do is attach your clasp to the one that all the strands are hanging from. So your clasp would be right there. And each of the strands would hang along with the tassel like that.
Danielle, the question you got was, are all 3 strands the same length?
Here they're not because I'm not using, but they would be, and that would be the best thing to do. You don't have to, I guess, but yeah, I think it's better if they are, just because that way they, when you're wearing them, they would all hang the same. I guess that makes sense. Actually, this does look kind of cute. It's growing on me. Wrist tones. And that center one really pretty. But yeah, I would say if you made it the same length, it would just make it stay tight on the wrist. And I did see a finding at Michael's the other day that it was a bar. So you could do multi-strand. That would be really cool. If you, I might even have it, but it's a really neat idea that you can use to finish multi-strands of any kind, but would be great with this design too. I'm pretty sure I've got it somewhere. But yeah, were there any other questions? Anything you guys want to see again? It looks like we've got about 8 minutes or so.
Danielle, people were asking how you tied your tassel, that you used the nylon cording. Would you ever have used the actual deerskin?
You could. Oh yeah. I mean, so it would be a really thick knot. But some people have a way of wrapping them where they don't knot. And that would be great with this too. But it would still look cute. What if you did kind of like one of those, let's say this is the end of my tassel. What if you did kind of an overhand style knot that hangs in the same direction? So one that comes through. It's kind of a rough estimate, but say this is the bottom. Then it would hang down like that, you see? And that would be cute. That would be really cute. It's a great idea. Any other questions? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
The last question, Danielle, might be, do you happen to have any of the beads that you used for the strand that is all the same size, the mustard colored?
You mean the, yeah, well, so I'm gonna bring up this, really quick and show you guys what color that was. It is called Barley Ivory. And it's the last, so the Michael SKU is 105-49078. And what I go with the number on the end here. See this 0195? That would be 0585 for the barley.
Thank you.
Thanks. Right now I'm looking for that bar. I really wanted to show you guys. I had it out and then I set it aside. But it's a neat idea. Oh, here, I think I found them. So, look at these. I just discovered these, like hot off the presses, but how cool would that be? You could put like 6 of those strands on it. Isn't that neat? This is, it says it's for earrings. I would totally use this for a bracelet. And it's the part number on that 547749. That's 547749. Really cool. Okay, does anyone have more questions or something else you want to see here on the mat?
I think that's good.
Good. Okay, I'm going to switch back so I can see you guys. I hope everybody had fun, and I promise we will get that handout sent to everybody just as soon as we can. And let's see, oh, I'm seeing something over here in the chat. So it was sent to the email address you used. So the email address that you used when you registered, that's where the PDF will be sent to you. You can also contact the customer service at Michael's if there was some issue with it not arriving, and they'll send it to you. And we'll try to post it as well. And so I'd like to say thank you to everyone for showing so much interest in this project. This is one of my favorite styles to make, and I would really love to see what you guys create. If you would post it and tag, if you tag my Michaels, you can get, I think we can see it that way just by following it on Instagram. There's also the Facebook group. You can post there. And just, yeah, I'm seeing some really sweet comments. Thank you guys. You're really nice. I love it. And I see one more comment here. A question. Are you asking my Instagram? I'm Danielle Wicks Jewelry. And yeah, so the question about next week. Next week we're doing peyote rings. Is that right, Kermie? We're doing peyote rings next week.
Yes.
So that's going to be fun. You guys want to show up for those delicos. We're gonna have a really good time with that. Some patterns, and if you're a beginner, don't be afraid. It's something that I've taught to beginners before, and peyote stitch is not scary. It's fun, and we'll just do a solid color if you're a beginner. Don't worry about the pattern. You do the pattern next time. But there is a pattern if you've done peyote and you want to try something new, more challenging. We will have a pattern during the class as well. We'll talk about following it, how to make your own, how to measure, all that stuff. All right. And where can we get the bead chart? I believe we're going to share that as well. Okay, so on that, I'll say goodbye unless anyone has any last questions. No, thank you. Thank you guys so much. And have a great rest of your week.